White normalism is the normalization of whites' cultural practices, ideologies, and location within the racial hierarchy. Whiteness as a standard in the United States permeates many facets of our society, and the classroom is not excluded.
There's a lot of standardization of curriculum, standardization of instruction, and there isn't much of a cultural lens that's brought to the table.
Normalism is the belief that whatever is unusual or different is pathological. Whenever we use the word normal, we're inherently suggesting that what is different from normal is abnormal, problematic, pathological, in need of reining in.
The majority of public schools right now are built very much on a white traditional system. You used the word factory before, and it really was. I mean, if we look back at how our entire public system was built, it was built for good, but really in the sense that we were going to select and sort kids out. I mean, that's how it was built. And it was built from a perspective and a cultural perspective of a European majority that were going to take advantage of that school. And it's changed very, very little since then.
What do you do when you have immigrant populations in your classroom? Well, you teach what's going to be their voice. And if you have districts that are pushing for a one-size-fits-all model in lieu of having a standardized test, because what would you put on it? Would you put in the patriotic version of the Alamo, or would you put in the version that says that, no, this was an event in the context of its time, and we have to look at it without being judgmental, but we also have to look at it as parable for a conflict in the present.
This idea of whiteness as the norm is embedded so deeply into the American education system that it alienates academically capable minority students and virtually assures their underperformance. In a study done by Shirley M. McBay, the president of the Quality Education for Minorities Network, McBay demands for a restructuring of the current education system to promote rather than discourage the education of minority students. Her suggestions for how to do this seem simple enough. Make curricula that is more responsive to minority students. Find a way to make the best teachers available to the students who need them the most. And make incentives clear for minorities for higher education. These are just a few solutions McBay promotes.
Because we're not making those adjustments and we're really upping these expectations, such as ACTs, SAT, grade point average, even attendance in school when you think about it. So we haven't taken the leap. I don't know if you read a lot from Sir Ken Robinson about really individualizing schools, nor have we taken a broad enough perspective about a cultural competency. And I'm not just talking about, when I say cultural competency, I'm really talking about teachers that understand who is in the room with them, and that they're not just responding from their comfort level, they're learning about how other kids learn.
There's a lot of standardization of curriculum, standardization of instruction, and there isn't much of a cultural lens that's brought to the table. And what I mean by that is looking at like Minneapolis public schools, the only system that I've worked in, we have what's called focused instruction. And these are benchmark assessments and lesson plans that they want us to teach. But it's a one-size-fits-all approach, and we have a diverse student population. So what you end up having is you have a curriculum that's being brought down from the district, that's being put to teachers to teach. And the teachers are kind of in a difficult spot because you have a student population that's in front of you. You're adapting lesson plans for them because you know them, and it comes out of those relationships. But you're also fighting and managing up the policies that are coming down.
Evidence of white normalism is dramatically abundant in our public schools today. Though the solutions will not be easy or fast, there are well-researched and promising steps we can take to facilitate positive change for our nation's aspiring scholars.
There's a movement in regards to equity that we're trying to hold on to. You know, there's plenty of people that say this is not tolerable. We can't have this anymore. So some schools are changing, you know.
When we were in our cultural geography unit, I asked students, what do you want to learn about? And I gave them a couple categories of culture, and the student said, I want to know more about education. And like, why have I never had an African American teacher? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, we're gonna have a seminar on that. Yeah. You know, if you just ask students, they're acutely aware of themselves in the world. Mm-hmm. We don't give teenagers enough credit. You know, I teaching 9th grade, you know, yes, they can act like middle schoolers, but they aren't dumb. Mm-hmm. They get the world that they're in. Mm-hmm. And so if you invite them into that process, yeah, it can work.